You all want to know the biggest secret to stopping these patterns? All you got to do is get curious. When they say something that is so rude, lean in a little bit, recognize, okay, you seem really upset with the way you just said that. Tell me what you mean by that, and make them go even deeper into it. Hey, Matt, both my wife and I grew up watching our parents fight constantly. We were always swore that we would never be like that. But my wife and I have been catching ourselves doing the same things. Yelling and shutting down, replaying the same toxic communication patterns. How can my wife and I ensure we break the cycle and create healthier example for our kids? Huge point. And by the way, that point is the beginning of the change. The minute you see you are there, that's the beginning. You can't fix something you're not aware of, right? So this is a good moment. You're now aware that, holy cow, I sound just like my mom or dad in their fights. Now, the reason we do these patterns and we do hand them down is because where are we supposed to learn to handle conflict? We don't teach it in school. We don't teach it. We don't even teach it in academics. Nobody has to take a class on conflict resolution. But what I would say is you're normal. This pattern is most of us don't know how to handle effectively conflict. Remember, we either become pursuers or withdrawers, and we do it automatically. It's an automatic thought pattern. And so you can't fix an automatic thought pattern being automatically thinking. You have to stop and get present. And once you recognize it's happening, you then can intervene. The intervention to change it is called real communication. Real communication is what we're going to do instead of the fight. We're going to get curious. We're going to recognize emotion, that's the R. Explore their story, that's the E. Attend to where they're starved, that's the A. And then we're going to lift the conversation. We are intentionally going to use that protocol whenever we go into mom and dad fight or flight mode. And I'll guarantee you, if I sat with you or if any of our coaches sat with you and you practiced get real with each other, and every time it started to turn into mom and dad mode, we stopped it and we just brought get real in and practiced it, I will promise you, you'll learn to communicate differently. We could do it another way. If I threaten to harm your children if you ever fought like your mom and dad again, the minute every time you guys get into fighting like mom and dad, poof, one of your kids disappears. If you had that pressing need to not do the fight or flight pattern, you'd stop doing it. But you have to replace it with a healthier new habit. And you're not going to do that automatically. Any good new habit is going to be, we have to be intentional. We have to notice what the triggers are. And a lot of times what you're going to see is this attachment stuff that I keep bringing up, those attachment needs. Am I lovable? Am I capable? Do I belong? Am I safe? Those are the core drivers of this fight or flight pattern that all of us are doing. So if you have this problem, make sure you've gone through the 10-day marriage makeover. The 10-day marriage makeover is going to show you step by step how we fall into the spiral. There's an assessment you can take, and after you take the assessment, you can identify, are you guys selfishly protecting? First, you're going to figure out what your starved stuff is. Where are you starving? Everybody that's in this fight or flight has a starved need. Starved, if you remember, stands for 7 basic needs: safety, trust, appreciation, respect, validation, encouragement, dedication. Everybody needs to know that those needs are being met. When those needs aren't met, we feel starved. When I'm starved, I trigger. When I trigger, I get very selfish. I start protecting myself. And so if you go take the assessment in the 10-day marriage makeover, you'll figure out, are you very selfish in your patterns? Do you get very reactive? Reactive just simply means you make decisions based on your mood, your situation, and your circumstances, not your highest values and principles. It just means you're reacting. And we've got to lower reactivity and increase proactivity if we want to fix this. You're never going to fix a relationship and make it healthier reactively. If you can't respond based on principle, you're reactive. So most people that are in this fight or flight pattern that's described with this couple that constantly fights, just like their mom and dad, they have a lot of reactivity. We need to lower that. That just is intentional skills and practice, letting the emotion hit you, let the wave go over you. You don't have to fight the waves. We were just at the ocean and you'd see people like taking on the waves. I don't need to fight every wave. I can let the wave of emotion come. I can turn my back and it'll go over me, and then I can go take 2 more steps out into the ocean. Let the wave come over me, 2 more steps. That's how you make progress. When I'm having an argument with my spouse, I don't need to take on their fight. I don't need to react to it and fight against it. I don't need to just be carried away with it either. I can stand my ground, turn, let it go, and then come back with my emotion in a healthier way. That's a skill that we teach in the Feeding the Starved Marriage online workshop. Any one of you can go to matttownsend.com and find the Feeding the Starved Marriage class. Like, again, I sit every day, and I've done it for 30 years now with couples in conflict. And it's literally, I put braces on the fight. If you grew up having braces on your teeth, you would talk like this. Those braces were designed to create straight growth for you, right? And so when we put the braces on your teeth, they would grow straight. And after a while, your teeth would learn to just grow straight. And they'd solidify and harden and they'd stay in their place. Same thing goes with your conversations. You guys only know how to have squirrely conversations. But if we can get you in a brace that helps you have a calmer, cleaner, more healthy, real conversation, after we've done that 3, 4, 5, 10 times, you get good at the pattern. You get good at the speed. You'll notice in our real conversations, they tend to go way slower than the unhealthy ones. It's way slower because we're actually understanding each other. Most ineffective conversations go way fast and way shallow, and they skid across the top of the ground. They don't ever get deep because nobody possesses the curiosity. You all want to know the biggest secret to stopping these patterns? And I'm just going to let you in on the backdoor secret. This is the secret. There's one secret. All you got to do is get curious. We're not curious about the other person. We could care less. They're crazy. But instead, I want you to get curious about them. When they say something that is so rude, I don't want you to react to it. I want you to notice it. Lean in a little bit. Recognize it. Okay, you seem really upset with the way you just said that. Seemed kind of upset. Tell me what you mean by that. And make them go even deeper into it. And then whatever they say, paraphrase it back. Okay, so you did mean that. You feel this, and this. Hold it up for them. Here's why. The minute you are curious and you actually are making them own what they're saying, at first they might just be reactive, being mean. And if they are, eventually, if you keep listening and they're just being mean, take 2 or 3 turns of them being mean without reacting to it, what you're telling them is they no longer have power over you to react. And you know what's weird about that? We call that character. That's the number one fix to these conversations that go squirrely, is if you don't react. Every human being has the power to choose how they're going to react. You don't have to fight back. And you know what else I wouldn't do? I wouldn't run. I'd just stand in that moment and I'd show them I'm strong enough to hear what you're saying. And you've doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on being really belligerent and mean. Tell me more. Where is this anger coming from? Let them explain it. I promise. If you did that with the least effective person you know, if you did that for 10 minutes, at the very end of 10 minutes, do you know what you'll see? They're out. Nobody can do that forever. It's so hard to be angry with somebody that actually understands what you're saying and is sorry for it and apologizes for what they need to apologize. Not more, not less. I don't even have to agree with them. But if I understand them, it literally takes the fire out of them. And then if they keep being mean, it doesn't mean I'm just going to take it forever. But what I'm going to eventually be able to say is, look, I could stand here and not fight you. And I'm not going to fight you. And I'm not going to run like I always do. I always run, and I'm not running either. I can understand what you're saying. You watch. I promise you, it is amazing what truly understanding somebody does. And by the way, most of us have never had anybody do that to us. Very few of us have actually ever been heard, thoroughly listened to, validated, encouraged, and have dedication towards us regardless of what we're saying. We don't get that. Most of us don't get that because most of us are so darn reactive. So if you really want to fix something, get curious. And the number one tool I teach to get curious is get real. Recognize the emotion. I can see you're upset about something. Talk to me about what you're feeling and let them share their feelings. Don't take them personal. Let those waves of feelings, they're going to try to get the feeling on you so you'll react. The fastest way, by the way, if you're a withdrawer, the fastest way they can shut this conversation down is just hit hard and you'll run around, you'll run away like a little dog that got kicked. But if you don't run and instead you let the wave of emotion go over you and then you reframe, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is you feel like I'm conniving and controlling and manipulative because I did this and this. Don't react to it. I'm not conniving. He's conniving. Don't tell me more. Give me more information about where you got that. And then listen. And then they'll give you more information and more information and more information. And I promise, the more you understand it, you're going to understand their thinking and their emotion. And in your head, you're going to be like, you're crazy. Some of what you're saying isn't true. Don't fight that. Hey, that's not even true. Don't go there. Hold your turn. You'll get your turn eventually. Take whatever they're saying that's crazy and just put it on the shelf. We'll get back to that. And eventually what you might hold up is, wow, it sounds like a lot of what these stories and examples you're giving me show me is that you really don't trust me. Is that what you're saying? Well, yeah. And then tell me more. Then understand it. John has a question here. How can you do that if the other person just runs and won't actually open up and answer those questions when you try to be real? By the way, huge question, John. The runner is really hard, right? Because they don't want to be a part of this. And remember, the rule for all of us listening is one cannot not communicate. If somebody's a runner and they don't want to talk, they're saying probably this is too hard. They don't know how to do this. They don't feel safe. They're afraid. I'd eventually say, look, I can see, obviously, you don't feel safe talking to me because you run. I don't know what I can do if we don't talk to make it safe so that you can talk and share your voice, like we talked about earlier. Would you be willing to just at least spend a minute with me to talk about how we can talk about it safer so you don't have to run? Again, they might say no. They might still run. But if they still run, I would still keep trying. I might then try another method to get to them. I might later, a couple days later or whatever, then write them a letter and email it to them and see if typing and writing it on their own away from me might work better for them. I might go get coaching help and start working on yourself. And I might trying to figure out of the stuff that they said to you historically, what have they said that would make you feel that it'd be clues as to why they don't feel safe? I might do everything I can to learn their story, especially if they're your spouse and you've known them a long time. You might know where some of this flight was originated. It may have come from a place further in their past. I would do everything I could to still show I'm loving, capable, belonging, and safe, and making them feel lovable, capable, belonging, and safe. Eventually, there's a point where you might, depending, every relationship's different, but where there might be a demand that has to be made. And the demand doesn't have to be like a forced thing, but it could be simply, look, I'm going to go to counseling because I can't keep doing this pattern. And I'm going to go get everything I can to be healthy and strong. I'd love you to be a part of that because I want us to work. Because I'm scared, because I don't know what's going to happen to us if we can't do this. And so I've set up an appointment. It's up to you if you want to come, but I'm going to start going to counseling, and I've got to start figuring out how to progress in this kind of one-sided conversation. And that's scary. I mean, I have a lot of clients that when they come see me and I'm coaching them, about a lot of them start by themselves, and about 80% of the time their partner shows up. So there's a lot we can still do, but don't take it personal, John. If they won't talk to you, some of it may have been something you've done in the past, but in reality, this is the pattern they probably learned from their parents. And this is generally why people divorce, you guys. This pattern of fight and flight is the number one reason people can't communicate and they can't ever resolve their issues. I don't know. I'd probably just be really careful. And no matter what, you're not going to react. And then you're going to be a loving, caring partner the rest of the day. And if they're going to keep hiding, then I might send a letter that, hey, this isn't working for me. Nathan has a question to add on to that. How can we have that conversation about that issue at hand without having everything from the past come out in the conversation and making my partner shut down even more? And now nothing gets better, even if I don't react during the conversation. Okay, one of the keys to having these conversations, because generally the minute you're turning on fight or flight, I call it smorgasbording. A lot of times, if you've ever been to like a chuckarama or a big smorgasbord where they have all the different foods in the world, and we try everything, and then if you ever notice, there's a lot of stuff you don't like and you never try again. And that's why I call it smorgasbording, because when we're fighting back and forth and nobody's getting real and we're not getting down to the starved issue, you're going to see a lot of times people just keep adding stuff from the past. One reason is because a lot of people love to fight backwards. They like to go backwards in the fight, A, because everything started back then, right? But B, because they've never resolved it. And another reason is because neither of us are on the same page with the past data. Most of us don't agree on the data. So what I would do is I would try to take one issue and get down to where they're starved. And once you figure out where they're starved, what you can pretty much bank, like let's say that I just feel disrespected. Everything you do is disrespect. In fact, do you remember when we went to that football game down at BYU? And then they're going to bring up some memory. And you know what sparked the memory? Disrespect. The minute they feel the disrespect, foink, they have a line right to it. Foink. It's like a spider web. They have 1,000 lines to the different webs of where they don't feel respected. So we have this example and this example. And what I teach usually is that all roads lead to starved. So every one of the issues that they're going to bring up from the past is just another issue of the respect. And so what you could do is once you've got it, or you might have 2 or 3, you didn't feel safe, you didn't feel respected, you didn't feel like I was dedicated to you. And you might see that a lot of those issues, okay, stop for a sec. Can we just slow down? And instead of bringing up every past issue, I really want you to feel good about one of these. What's one that we can work on today? What can I do? What can we do to make you feel safer going forward? To make you feel respected going forward? To make you know I'm dedicated to you going forward? Let's talk about one. Is there one of those that we can work on right now? And if it's dedication, great. So we have the holidays coming up, and it sounds like you're worried that I won't be dedicated to you when we go to my family party. Great. What would that look like if I had a magic wand and we could make it like you feel totally that I'm dedicated to you? What would make that feel like I'm there for you when we go to that party? And out of that conversation, she might throw jabs at you, bring up 10 things from the past. Again, that sounds like the dedication issue. And then just try to figure out some solutions of what would work going forward. Now, if somebody, like Nathan brought up, keeps bringing up stuff from the past, and what I call that is smoke. They create more smoke. Why would they want to create more smoke? Because they might be trying to hide from the vulnerability of it, right? Or their own responsibility of it. But they're trying to hide still. And so don't chase the smoke. Let's try to keep it as present as we can. I promise. You can even write it down. That one story, that story, that story, that story. Let me write those down so I can remember we can come back to them. I want to come back to them. I want you to feel safe. I want to create respect with us and dedication. This might be an example, Nate, where you need coaches that can actually call you back on it. When I'm a coach, a lot of times I'm saying, you know what? Let's just stay on this issue for now. I'll write those down. We'll come back to those. But let's stay on these issues. And having somebody that can direct it can maybe make it safer for them to feel vulnerable in that moment. This is not always easy to do alone because of our history. We do have coaches that can help you guys with that. Looks like we have one more comment from Nori, and then we got to wrap it up, it looks like. So Nori said, that's my husband. I write him an email and letter, but it worked first. Then he stopped responding. Now we are in divorce mediation. He ran away from conflict and avoids communication. The reality of an avoidant, if somebody is a really strong avoidant, there's only a few ways out of avoidance, right? Eventually. They dodge it, they shuck, they hide, they bury themselves, whatever. You have to email them, then they don't respond. Eventually, in a relationship, the only way out if you're an avoidant is to separate, divorce, or death. And what are the ultimates of the pursuit? If I keep pushing, and then I'm always going to be the aggressor. I'm always going to be the one that has to bring the energy. I'm always going to be the one that maybe files for the divorce, that files or does the separation, or ends up harming the other, right? So eventually, pursue and withdraw, they're not solutions. We don't want to ever even have to argue to be the pursuer or the withdrawer. What you could do instead is just be real and just sit in the space. But it's hard if I'm the withdrawer to sit in a space with a big pursuer, because when I come back in to talk, the pursuer's controlling it all. They're asking the questions, they're leading it, they're communicating, they're over talking, they're doing everything. So generally what I suggest is I'll hold, or somebody needs to hold the withdrawer in, and we have to shut the pursuer up. If the pursuer actually wants resolution, you got to let the withdrawer or the avoider talk. And it has to be a safe enough space. So I shut one up usually, and I hold one in. And that's usually my 24/7 job. But at some point, we need to have enough character that this one doesn't run and that this one makes it safe. The talker usually wants progress. The withdrawer usually wants peace. Peace and progress make a really good conversation. That's the goal. And so just think about your life. Where are you in the pattern? And some of us, again, you, like Nori was saying, you're not going to be able to fix somebody that won't address their own withdrawing. If they won't address it, they won't address it. That's not yours to fix. You can 100% fix your pursuit and calm and stay in the space. And the sooner we learn to create a safe space, the better. And as soon as we learn to quit running and get comfortable in the space, the better. That goes back to character. That goes back to your ability to not have to fight or flight, your ability to not pursue, to not withdraw, to not get in that spiral of selfishness, reactive, polarized. That's that fight or flight, negative interpreting. I'm not going to negatively interpret everything you do. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Once you're negatively interpreting everything that they're doing, it's over, right? That's part of that spiral. I'm not going to get hopeless just because this person is. Because if you can just quit pursuing and they're not going to be in, you still have a variety of things that are at your fingertips that you can do. It may not save the marriage, as we saw with Nori. It may not. It really might not. But what it might do is change the pattern going forward. We're not going to hand it down to the next relationship, and we're not going to hand it down to our kids.